to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast with your hosts Griffin Palmer, CJ Hickman, Jason Cabrera, and Ryan Mitchell.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the show. It is Friday, September 22nd. Welcome to the Fantasy Football Fanatics podcast, the official podcast of the fantasyfootballfanatics.com. I'm your host, Griffin Palmer, joined as always by CJ the Hitman Hickman and Jason Cabrera. What is up, guys?
What's up, man? What's going on?
Not much. An enjoyable game of Thursday Night Football for a change. That was welcome.
Pretty good.
And honestly, kind of surprising. I wasn't expecting it to be an 80-point game. So I'm pretty sure that if you took the over in the Vegas odds there, you probably made some money. So there you go. As always, we have an amazing show for you guys today. Today, we're going to be going through all of our starts and sits for week number 3, probably the main reason you're all tuning in. Of course, we're going to bring you all the top headlines from around the league, updates on a lot of injuries around the league. We'll get to all of that. Before we do that, please make sure you guys subscribe, wherever you're listening. We're all over iTunes, Stitcher, Podcast Addict, YouTube, the works. We do the spiel every single week. Just want to make sure you guys are prepared. This is a long season. We want to make sure you don't miss out on anything. You can submit your questions, especially lineup disputes as we go into the weekend on Twitter at the FF Fanatics, on Facebook at facebook.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. You can submit them via email to thefantasyfootballfanatics@gmail.com. And of course, most importantly of all, if you want to support the show and possibly get yourself, you'll definitely get priority question answering, and you can get guaranteed question answering there as well. Head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Help us keep the lights on. Get yourselves a part of a much more exclusive community where, we if you guys help us do what we do, we do our best to give back to you guys. I mean, we do anyway by doing the show, but it's a much more tight community over there. I don't know what the best way to put it is. I haven't planned this speech out, but yeah,
you're doing a great job convincing people.
I'm just saying, it's a lot of good stuff. It's bonus episodes, it's priority question answering, at certain tiers guaranteed question answering. Because bottom line, we get so many questions every single week. We can only get to so many. We get to as many as we can, but there's only so much time in the day, and a lot of other cool perks as well. So again, if you want to take a look at that, help us keep doing what we're doing. We offer you guys a free product here. We do our best. Head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. With that, let's move into our warm-up, which is simply, what was your guys' biggest takeaway from Thursday Night Football? Of course, Chargers at San Francisco. Anyone want to go first?
Rams. Chargers at San Francisco.
Rams at San Francisco.
Wow.
You are so bad.
That's really bad. I see, the worst part is when I typed it into the show doc, and this is not a joke, I put St. Louis, and then I was like, oh crap, I have to change that, and then I put the wrong inicial.
Then you put the wrong.
I put the wrong initial. I put LAC instead of LAR. Yeah.
Everything was off.
We're off the rails. This is bad. Anyway, yes, the Los Angeles Rams at San Francisco 49ers, Week 3, Thursday Night Football, Color Rush game. Who wants to start?
I'll start. One thing is these two teams have been historically mediocre to bad recently, but I was on Twitter for a lot of this game, tweeting out to our Twitter handle. And I got to say, I really enjoyed watching these two coaches go at each other. I mean, McVay has obviously turned the Rams culture around. This offense is potent. They have a lot of weapons. Todd Gurley looked good in the passing game. They were using Watkins. I like what I'm seeing out of Goff and Watkins right now. That they started kind of connecting. And it's amazing to watch Goff because every game he seems to kind of realize something, and you see him kind of figure it out. Like for the first half of the game, he kept drifting back every time there was pressure. Chris Collinsworth was even mentioning it. And then about halfway through the second half, he started stepping up into the pocket. And that's when he really started getting the passing game going. So it's really interesting to watch Goff, the matriculation of Jared Goff. And Watkins and him are forming a fantastic relationship. I think that's going to be a really, really potent offense moving forward. I mean, they already are. I mean, they scored over 40 points for the second time in the season. We've only had 3 games.
Who would have predicted that? We didn't. We didn't think they were going to do that twice in 3 weeks.
We didn't at all.
Jeez.
Well, another thing, talking about the coaches. One thing I love, and I don't know how you guys felt about this, but one thing I absolutely loved is every time the Rams defense got on the field, Sean McVay went and sat down.
Yep.
Yeah.
Like he just walked away, sat down, and just started looking into his notes. He didn't even look at the field. He's looking at his notes because he's like, I'm just going to let Wade Phillips do whatever he wants to do. I'm going to let him run this defense.
I'm just going to let
I
Dad
love that.
run the field.
right? Sir, you just run it. I'll be over here getting ready for when the offense gets back on the field. It's cool. I love that. That shows real maturity and real intelligence from a very young coach. So I'm really excited about that. I got to also say, Carlos Hyde, he kind of surprised me a little bit because I know he's fast, I know he's athletic, but he turned out to be very tough in this game. I mean, there were a couple times where it took, pretty much the entire defense to bring him down. And I mean, I think the water boy was out there hitting him in the knee and all sorts of stuff. He was still moving. So I was impressed with Carlos Hyde. Also, two players to kind of keep your eye on, Trent Taylor and Marquise Goodwin, both of the San Francisco 49ers. Both of those guys made some plays down the stretch, and Taylor was looking really, really nice. They kept saying it looked like Amendola and Edelman, and I was like, okay, I could totally see that.
Taylor
then,
was
course,
awesome.
Gotta put this,
he had it.
Taylor was awesome.
Just looking at this is per next gen stats. He had an average separation from his defender of about 3.76 yards. Holy crap! Yeah. I mean, Pierre Garçon, their number one
cut ability.
Oh yeah, their number one receiver, Pierre Garçon, was only 2.3. So I mean, that's a whole yard of additional separation. Of course, not drawing the top coverage, but still, that's wide open. A shoulder's width is wide open in the NFL, and he had yards on the next guy on average. So that's incredible.
Yeah. He's going to catch the ball, and he's going to catch it. But the other thing I'll say, and this is for you, Griffin, Hoyer and Garçon looked really good in this game. They really found a rhythm together. Now, I will preface this by saying they were not playing a team that has been together for a while. They're playing a team that was still coming together, still getting their feet under them, still getting to understand who they are.
And banged
when
up.
They play a good team, I don't expect this kind of thing to happen again.
No, and neither do I. That's why I was saying that I wouldn't even go after really Hoyer unless it was a really great streaming matchup. I mean, he had a pretty darn good week this week, 332 yards, 2 touchdowns. So that's not a bad streaming performance. But that's what I was saying the whole preseason. I mean, I was by far the highest on Pierre Garçon. I didn't think he was a matchup-proof starter, but in the right matchups, he had great usability. I mean, here he had over 100 yards. He didn't score a touchdown, but I mean, I see no reason with the amount of volume that he's getting. 7 receptions, 130 some yards. It's not bad. You can definitely plug that in as a wide receiver 2 flex option with upside. So again, don't lock it in every single week, but I mean it's an option. Don't look away at it. This isn't last year's 49ers anymore.
No,
my biggest thing, of course,
I even tweeted out this is not Fisher's Rams.
Yeah,
and which is kind of mean and savage, but at the same time, it's real true. I mean, that offense is ridiculous now.
That's true. Oh, and I stand corrected. It was 142 yards so that's an average of 20 yards per catch. So that's insane. On the Rams sides, Robert Woods and Sammy Watkins both topped 100 yards. And my big takeaway here, of course, freaking Todd Gurley. In our league of record, man, I couldn't be happier having him now. 3 touchdowns, including another receiving one, which is, he's being used a lot more in the passing game, which is awesome. This is something we had heard talk about. They wanted to get him going in that aspect. It's something he was confident he could do, and he is showing it off. Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur, the offensive coordinator, which, you'd be surprised to find out that they have an offensive coordinator because, Sean McVay does all the head coaching and the play calling. They didn't, I think, did they pan to him once throughout the entire game? They just kept showing Sean McVay sitting on the coolers making adjustments. So, but
I think it might have been one glance at him, but not like they were doing McVay when he was just chilling by the coolers.
Right. But, I mean, both of these guys, as we've talked about in the preseason, great offensive minds and have clearly turned around this Rams offense. And, I mean, what more is there to say for fantasy? 3 touchdowns from Todd Gurley. I mean, 113 rushing yards, and he also had a decent receiving day as well. I mean, what are you going to do? And he could have had 2 more touchdowns. San Francisco had 2 amazing goal line stands. And honestly, I think that Todd Gurley probably would have punched it in if they still had center John Sullivan, who went down with an injury. We're still not sure exactly what happened there. But him being gone left an obvious void in the center of the line. They could not run vertically anymore. In fact, the vast majority after that injury happened of success for Todd Gurley was when he's flanking out wide left. So, I mean, that's why you saw a lot of that bounce out to the side and go down the sideline type plays instead of running north-south. So, I mean, something to watch. I mean, obviously still productive. They just might have to change up their running schemes a little bit. But I was very impressed. And, again, this was not a top-tier defense they were playing, but this is something that I expect them to build on and just further proves that Todd Gurley is a viable number 1 running back through the season. I'm very comfortable in saying that from this point on. CJ, what was your takeaway?
Well, man, it was very surprising that this being a division game and all these points was happening. You know what I mean? And one thing I credit to that is that both of these organizations, owners, they made the right decisions when it comes to these two head coaches, man. They're improving this team week after week, and we're starting to see big signs that this offenses and defenses are coming along. I'm starting to look at the 49ers defense, and I'm like, man, these boys have been playing stingy since week one. And they come and, yes, it was a lot of points, but yet they play hard. And the same thing with the Rams.
Oh, yeah.
So I like the direction that both of these teams are going. And then for fantasy wise, there's so many places to be able to go. I mean, Sammy Watkins, if he can keep this up, I'm gonna have to apologize to this man, because I've been very anti Sammy Watkins, and rightfully so, because he's been hurt up the whole time. But he's in a right situation right now. Maybe it's a warmer climate that's making him play a little better, so he doesn't have to deal with that cold in Buffalo. But this is a good system that he's in right now, and this is a great audition to hopefully show you what he can be able to do week in and week out for you.
Well, I don't think any of us doubted the talent of Sammy Watkins, but like you said, it has always been the injury risk. That was the big problem there. So, I mean, we'll see. I think obviously very good. I mean, 2 touchdowns, that's awesome, but, injuries are a concern. And here, both him and Robert Woods left the game with concussion protocol. So, we'll see how that plays out. But, obviously.
Well, Robert Woods took a whack on the head. I mean.
Yeah. Oh, not Robert Woods. Sorry. Robert Woods
did better.
Yeah. Sorry, not Robert Woods. Robert Woods did get whacked on the head, though. He probably will be evaluated. But no, Tavon Austin left in the concussion protocol right at the end. That's right. From a hit that had happened considerably earlier on. So, it's tough to monitor. And if these guys are out, I obviously expect an uptick in targets, for especially PPR for Cooper Kupp, a darling of this show. So, things to monitor. And obviously, now they've got a long break before their next game, and we will monitor and update as we move forward and we learn more. So,
one other thing. Aaron Donald. Oh, dude.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I've got him on my team. I was giving him another week off to make sure he was in shape. Yeah, he's in shape. I'll be starting him from here on out.
You just put him right in. As soon as he showed up, you should have been putting him in your lineup.
Well, he did nothing his first week back, but man, this week he woke up.
Yeah, Aaron Donald, he was in the backfield more times than not. He was very disruptive. So he clearly was eating his Wheaties.
Running back.
Yeah, he was doing his offseason conditioning while waiting for this contract situation to be resolved. So, yeah, I agree.
Clearly.
Good IDP option and just something to consider when setting lineups against the Rams. Obviously, they can be run on, but they've got to run away from Aaron Donald because he disruptive. So with that, let's move on to our top headlines from around the league. We'll start at the quarterback position in Minnesota, where quarterback Sam Bradford has practiced for the second day in a row as of Thursday. So things are definitely trending in the right direction. Looks like Sam Bradford might be ready to play, but again, what do we know? It could, as we heard from the head coach, could be 1 week, could be 6 weeks. We're hearing it's a bone bruise and not necessarily a ligament thing. It's a lot of misdirection and coach speak, and I guess we will obviously know more through the weekend. We will tweet us out as soon as we know the status for his playing this weekend. But you guys think Sammy? How did I say Sammy? Because we were just talking about Sammy Watkins. Do you think Sammy Bradford? Do you think he plays this weekend?
I hope so.
Yeah,
I think he does.
No concern.
Yeah. I'm hoping, man, because I don't want no part of Case Keenum, man. My Adam Thielen, I don't have no feeling for him if Case Keenum is in there.
No,
you're going to lose your Thielen for Thielen.
I'm nothing.
Yeah, that entire team, I mean, as we talked about on Tuesday's show, you could see the effect of losing the starting quarterback on that team. And I was reading other articles where they're talking about, I mean, hey, if he misses an extended period of time, there might be a chance that we might see a re-emergence of Teddy Bridgewater here if he is ready to go. So, it's this whole crazy, confusing situation. True. But again, it looks like he's trending in the right direction. It looks like he might play. Plus, not a terrible matchup. He's obviously hosting the Buccaneers. They were a good defense through one game, and we know they're very talented. But, I mean, in Minnesota, it's never a bad situation. So we'll see how it all plays out, and again, we'll update you when we know more. Let's move on to the running back position. Well, we'll start with the Los Angeles Chargers. I got it right this time. Where running back Melvin Gordon was added to the injury report on Thursday. Was limited with a knee issue. That's really all we know at this point. Not good. You never want to see late additions to the injured report. we'll monitor. We will definitely be letting you guys know when we know more. This is concerning. Have you guys heard anything else? Because this is the extent of what I've heard.
I'm not the same with you. This is the first
Yeah, not as of yet.
All right, well, then we will monitor. Let's move on to Chicago, where running back Jordan Howard remains sidelined in practice on Thursday, dealing with that shoulder injury. Of course, spotted in a sling after the game last Sunday. His status is very up in the air. We're hearing people say that he's being rested. He should be good to play. Other people saying that he might miss a couple weeks. Again, we'll have to update as we learn more. Of course, Tariq Cohen stands to benefit from his absence. Are you guys comfortable starting him this week? Talking about Cohen here, hosting the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, Cohen, yeah.
Cohen.
Yeah, Cohen, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, I was going to say, obviously, I think we all should be. I mean, it was a great PPR option, picking up the slack. Not super productive in the running game, but with volume, he should be good. But let's flip that. Would you be comfortable if we hear that Jordan Howard is starting? Would you feel comfortable plugging him into your lineup?
No.
No?
No.
Yeah, I agree. That shoulder injury, I mean, you kind of need your shoulders as a running back. You take a lot of hits. You know, the whole concept of lowering a shoulder to knock a guy off you, get a couple yards, that's going to really hurt if you have a damaged shoulder. So I'm taking a very passive wait-and-see approach, and I'm honestly, besides everything we're hearing, I'm kind of expecting him not to play. I think they're going to be smart. They're going to sit him for a week or two so he can recover, because those injuries, that's not going to go away unless you rest it and rehab it. So we'll see. Let's move on to Miami, where running back Jay Ajayi did not practice again on Thursday, dealing with a knee injury. He is expected to play as of what I've last heard. This is precautionary. Have you guys heard anything different?
No.
Nope.
Same thing.
All right. Well, let's see. Michael Cohen of the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel expects Green Bay to lighten Ty Montgomery's workload going forward. Now, when I first read this, I was very confused. Like, what? Okay. And then after looking into the numbers, he actually has more snaps than any other running back in the NFL. Obviously, he's in there for pass catching downs, running downs, pass protection, the works, which was a big knock on him coming into this season. So, I mean, if you're a Ty Montgomery owner, I don't think that this is scary, though, because, you know, the league average is somewhere around, I think, I've researched it was around 70-75% of the snaps, and he's been in there for close to 95% of the snaps. So, I mean, this is just going to hopefully keep him fresh, keep him rested, and hopefully keep him from being injured. Obviously, a long injury history. And if you ran the risk on drafting Ty Montgomery, who has looked great through 2 weeks, injury is always a concern. So I'm not taking this negatively. And, this may not even be true. This is just a beat writer. What are your guys' thoughts here?
My same thoughts exactly. I mean, I'm a Ty Montgomery owner. I was feeling the same way when I read this. I was not going to overreact and go like, well, hey, wait a minute. Don't be trying to get the other kid behind there. I don't think Jamal Williams, right? He's
Jamal Williams, yep.
Jamal Williams. I don't believe he's going to be a factor. He's going to be a detriment to Ty Montgomery snaps. Just like your train of thinking that's how I was feeling too.
Yep. Jason, any different?
No, I think it's smart. I think they absolutely should lower his snaps just because of his injury history. You know, we know he's been hurt in the past.
Yep, I agree. All right, so again, if you're an owner, don't be worried. I think that this will keep him fresher, and maybe he'll be even more explosive. But used even more in the passing game than the running game on Sunday night's game. So, I wouldn't be surprised if that's also a trend that they like to throw. They throw a lot in Green Bay. Of course, hosting in Green Bay, they're more likely to do a lot of trick plays like that as well. So we'll see. Obviously, not injured, just something to think about. Moving on to Arizona, where head coach Bruce Arians said that he expects running back Chris Johnson's carries to increase in week number 3. So no surprise here. We were all expecting this transition based on what we had seen and what we had heard. Looks like Chris Johnson is taking over as the lead back in that backfield. I mean, I obviously have to throw this to our resident Cardinals fan. Jason, what are your thoughts?
No, it's just like what I was saying before. As soon as I heard that they had brought him back on and put him back on the roster, I went out and I got as many shares of Chris Johnson as I possibly could. I love Arians for being careful, but Chris Johnson will end up being the starter, in my opinion.
I agree. I picked him up in a couple of leagues. He was one of our waiver wire targets. Hopefully you guys were able to get some shares of him as well. Do you think he gets enough of a workload to be a viable RB2, or are you using him more as a flex option right now?
I think he's going to be a viable RB2. Arians has got I need a lead back in his blood. He doesn't like running with a full committee. He usually likes a lead back and then spelling them out with two different guys. So and that's what's going to happen here with Kerwin Williams and Andre Ellington and possibly DJ Foster.
Yeah, all right. I agree. So let's move on to New England, where running back Rex Burkhead did not practice on Thursday, dealing with a rib injury. Something to monitor, but I don't think this is necessarily super impactful for people. Mike Gillislee seems to have a very concrete grab on that starting job there. In Baltimore, running back Terrence West remains sidelined on Thursday, dealing with a thigh injury. This is something worth monitoring because a lot of people did put draft stock into Terrence West, and obviously Buck Allen behind him has looked very, very good. So, I mean, if Terrence West doesn't play, hopefully you're able to get your hands on Buck Allen as a handcuff type situation. I mean, obviously, most people were drafting him as a PPR option. He was my waiver wire pickup of the week. So, I mean, it looks like he's geared for a pretty decent matchup against the Jaguars in London because that defense is good against the pass. They've got great corners, but they have been run on thus far. So, could be looking for a very good situation if West does take a week off. So, we'll monitor and update as we know more. In Washington, running back Rob Kelly practiced again on Thursday dealing with a rib injury. Now, early assumptions was that he was dealing with cracked ribs and that he was probably not going to play. It was obviously mostly a pain tolerance thing. They put flak jackets on these guys and throw them back out there. But a lot of people, and I saw this in a lot of leagues, a lot of people spent a lot of money trying to pick up Chris Thompson. And, of course, a lot of people were already rostering Samaje Perine. Rob Kelly coming back. This is gonna really hurt those investments. What are your guys' thoughts here?
I think it's stupid about Washington, man. Why to risk this kid going in there and getting even more injured when you have other options at the wide receiver from the running back position? They're not hurting at that position where you need Rob Kelly. I think it would have been smarter for them to sit him down so he can get rest and get healthy. But this is just typical Washington to me, where they just do stupid stuff like this.
Tell us how you really feel. Jeez. Jason, your thoughts?
I mean, it's like you said, this is a pain tolerance thing. The good thing about that is when he goes in, he's going to be able to tell them, okay, yeah, I need to come out now, and he can come out and he can be spelled. So I'm okay with him playing. It's not a big deal. Honestly, it like you said, it's a pain tolerance thing. If he doesn't have cracked ribs, then he can't really hurt himself more unless he gets, obviously hit and injured, purely injured. It's not going to be like an aggravated injury. It's just pain. So we'll see what happens. I think he'll play. I'm going to be very, very careful about what I do with him. I probably won't play him this week because of all that pain, and he's going to be spelled quite a bit, I think.
Yeah, and a lot of people, at least I fielded a number of questions. I don't know about you guys. People talking about, why didn't you talk about Chris Thompson during the waiver wire episode? And it's simply because, yes, he is currently a top 5 running back in fantasy. Can't argue that. But I want nothing to do with Chris Thompson for a couple of reasons. For starters, he has this great production on 6 rushing attempts this season and only 7 receptions. Yeah. He is a very low volume, very high efficiency player, and those players tend to go on streaks and then they fall back to the mean. That is an unsustainable pace, and you're not going to want to be starting a guy who you're banking on 3 rushing attempts to maybe be able to punch the ball in, get you a chunk of yards, and obviously some receptions. If Rob Kelly wasn't going to be able to go, Samaje Perine was going to come in, be that workhorse, and Chris Thompson was going to be the change of pace back. He wasn't going to be assuming that main role. He was going to be getting a massive uptick in volume based on everything we've been hearing. And I was also concerned that, again, this being a pain tolerance thing, that Rob Kelly could possibly return for week 3. And it's looking like, based on everything I'm hearing, that they're expecting him now to play in week 3. So if you guys burned a lot of draft capital in Chris Thompson, I mean, hey, shot in the dark, throwing a dart on the board. He has amazing upside, as we've seen through 2 weeks, but I just don't think that pace is sustainable. So that's why I personally was not investing in him, and I was not recommending for you guys to as well. Though, I mean, hey, if you flex him, if you are in need of a serious big ceiling play, he could be that guy. We've seen it, but I don't know. His floor is just too low for me. You guys agree with that?
I agree.
Yep.
All
right, let's move on to Carolina, where head coach Ron Rivera said that the Carolina Panthers' backfield will be determined by, quote, the flow of the game, end quote, and who is playing well. This was the most Ron Rivera thing I have ever heard, where he is not being creative. He's not drawing up plays specifically for each player. He's not, scheming one way or another. He's simply going to put his guys out there and see who gets going. And when I saw this, I literally just busted out laughing that this was a statement that he made. And this is a typical statement that coaches make, but coming from Ron Rivera, who a lot of analysts out there would agree that he is a very vanilla coach when it comes to offensive scheming. I just could not believe this when you've got such different talents at running back between Jonathan Stewart, a north-south runner, and Christian McCaffrey, a versatile multi-tool that you can use on all different areas of your offense. And he's talking about whoever has the better flow of the game being the guy he's going to give the more touches to. So I don't know, what were your guys' thoughts on this? This just frustrates me. I personally am not a Christian McCaffrey owner, but I can sympathize with those that are.
I thought that maybe CJ would want to say something here, but
yeah,
okay.
I know. I was going to say, CJ, you're the big critic.
Given you are a McCaffrey owner, I don't want any parts of this Carolina offense this year. I literally have no one from Carolina on my team, on any of my teams, because of this. And I don't like vanilla offenses, and I don't like running quarterbacks, and they've got both of them. It's like a double play of just bad for me. So that's why I don't go near these guys. For me, basically what he's saying is we're going to play the game like we normally play the game, because that's what Ron Rivera does. So doesn't change how I feel about anybody.
Yeah, I agree with your statements there, and I don't have any shares in the Carolina offense at all this season, and I was very close to making Kelvin Benjamin my start of the week, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it because I did
the same thing.
It's a great matchup.
Same exact thing.
It's so good, and with Greg Olsen being down, those targets in theory have to go somewhere. But I'm just not a believer in Cam Newton as a pocket passer. So I mean, spoiler alert, he's not my start of the week. If you guys were thinking that, though, it is a good matchup. I don't fault you for starting him. So CJ, I mean, obviously we're itching to hear what your thoughts are here.
I mean, it's frustrating to hear this because one part, I think, like week 1 or week 2 or the beginning of the season, you hear reports saying that McCaffrey has his own set of plays, and it's just like 12 or 22 set of plays for him that they're gonna implement and get him involved. And you see the potential that he has during the preseason, and you're like, oh my goodness, this is going to be great for Cam. He's just going to be able to eat up, and you see the potential. Everything is lined up for there. But like M. Night Shyamalan, when he did the remake of the Avatar, he just screws it up.
Wow.
And that's exactly what River Ron is doing. You're just screwing this up, and all you got to do is just insert the kid and just go. And for some reason, he wants to continue to use Jonathan Stewart, and I'm not mad at Jonathan Stewart. I think he's still a good back, but if you're going to do anything, use both of them. Don't just put one guy out there, give him two or three plays, yank the other guy out, and then start running Jonathan Stewart the whole freaking time. That's what's so frustrating to me about this offense is the coaching. It's bad coaching right now. You have an absolutely great weapon that can be used in this offense. And this offense, and I'm watching NFL Game Pass, they have stalled. Why have they stalled? Because people are not getting open. Okay, you have a tool in your shed that can get you open, but yet you refuse to use it. That's the foolishness that I don't like, and it irritates me.
Yeah, I've gone back and watched some of the stuff as well, watching the All-22 camera and just seeing it's just not working. It looks like what we've seen in the past. It's not super creative. It's not using them to the best of their abilities. And you would assume with Greg Olsen going down that, the short dump-off pass, his security blanket is gone. Cam Newton has never played as a Carolina Panther and not had Greg Olsen on the field. So you have to assume that he's going to be dumping off more. So you would think Christian McCaffrey is going to be the main beneficiary here. But, I mean, if he's not on the field, that's not going to happen. So I think the safe assumption would be that they're going to use more two-back sets. But, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they completely didn't. So, obviously, we'll see. They have a fantastic matchup hosting the Saints this week. And, it is divisional, so we have to put that out there. That changes everything. But, I mean, we just saw a divisional game go for 80 points. Two teams that we didn't expect that from at all. So, anything's possible. Anything else you guys want to add to this situation before we move on?
We're good.
Moving on.
We're good? All right, last bit of running back news. The New York Jets offensive coordinator, John Morton, said that the team plans to use a 3-man running back committee going forward. So if you invested draft capital into Bilal Powell, I'm sorry for you guys. I mean, it was a upside long shot play anyway with Matt Forte being there, but of course there's Bilal Powell, Matt Forte, and of course Elijah McGuire is the other one that they're talking about, and this is a situation worth getting out of. If you can trade whichever parts of this backfield you have for pennies on the dollar, see if you can get something for it, I would. But unless there's injuries, it looks like this is just going to be a wasteland of fantasy production. So anything you guys want to add before we move on?
Get away from the Jets.
Get away from the Jets.
Yep. Just get away from it.
Get away. It's a bad situation. All right, so from there, let's move on to the wide receiver position, where Green Bay Packers wide receiver Jordy Nelson is expected to play this Sunday versus the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, he was dealing with a quad injury, kept him out the entire game against the Falcons. So all Jordy Nelson owners out there, join me in a deep inhale and then a sigh of relief. Okay, this is good. We are okay. Let's move forward. So hopefully he will be good to go. By most accounts, he seems to be fine. He was a full participant. So exciting news there. Jordy Nelson hopefully will be back. And obviously, if you have any parts of that Green Bay Packers offense, the whole thing runs better when Jordy is there. So this is good news for Aaron Rodgers owners and owners of any other weapons. So I like this. Side note, with those weapons, Green Bay wide receiver Randall Cobb has remained sidelined at practice as of Thursday, dealing with a shoulder and reported chest injury. So I'm not sure if that's stemming from the shoulder or not, which is very strange to me because Jordy Nelson missed the game with a quad injury. Randall Cobb obviously got hurt late in the game, but we heard rumor that he could have gone back in if need be, and the MRI came back negative, yet he's not practicing. So this is very frustrating because Randall Cobb, I mean, we saw once he gets going, he is a monster of a little slot receiver, but I mean, he's always banged up. So hopefully he gets back. He's a big part of the offense. And there was if you guys saw the graphic on the Thursday night game where they're showing like 3 receivers of most reliable hands in the league. I mean, Randall Cobb dropped 1 pass all of last year, and he's always been that guy. So he is a great emergency weapon for Aaron Rodgers in that offense. So hopefully he gets back soon. And a lot of people are using him as a flex option with a ton of upside right now. So we'll see. Anything you guys want to add to this situation before we move on?
Nope.
We can keep going.
Nope. All right, let's move on to the New York Giants, where wide receiver Odell Beckham Jr. said he expects to play, quote, a lot more, end quote, in Week 3 versus the Eagles. So great news there if you're Odell Beckham Jr. owners. Bad news if you are an Eagles fan, right, CJ?
No, I wouldn't say bad news. I mean, you saw the tape that he was put out there against Detroit. He made a couple he caught a couple passes, showed some elusiveness, but at the end of the day, you did see who was throwing him the ball, Eli Manning, and you did see him just getting absolutely thrashed by Detroit. That offensive line is still a problem, so I'm not that concerned. I'm not that worried.
All right. With that, let's move on to Miami, where wide receiver Devontae Parker was held out of practice on Thursday, dealing with an ankle injury. This, by all accounts that I've just heard, don't freak out, don't panic. This seems to be all precautionary. He's expected to play and be a full participant in the game on Sunday with a great matchup against the Jets, even though it is divisional. We just said divisional is not always a scary thing, depending on the matchup. Also, Miami's head coach Adam Gase said that Jarvis Landry's knee injury is not that serious, so good news there as well. Expect both these guys to most likely be on the field and ready to be a full participant this Sunday. Are you guys starting Jarvis Landry with confidence? I'm starting Devontae Parker with confidence.
I'm on the fence with Landry because I have him on a couple of my teams. I'm on the fence, but I'm leaning towards that because, I mean, I know I said stay away from the Jets, but I'm talking about their offensive players. If you're the opposing side, oh yes, you want to rent property on the Jets. You want to try to buy stock, everything.
Yeah.
So I'm on the fence about it, but I'm probably most likely going to start him.
Yeah, as we talked about this time last week, there are common themes of defenses that we're targeting, so expect to hear some of that going forward. Yeah. Sorry, Jets fans. Moving on to back to Carolina, where wide receiver Kelvin Benjamin did return to practice on Thursday, dealing with a rib and knee injury. So good news there. A guy primed for a big, hopefully breakout performance this week, as we said. Very close to being two of our starts of the week, but didn't quite make it. This was also a tiebreaker for me because he was banged up. And sorry, Panthers fans, for all the stuff we were saying earlier, but you know it's true. Let's move on to Arizona, where wide receiver J.J. Nelson was limited in practice on Thursday, dealing with a hamstring injury. Now, this was a little bit of a later development, at least to me. Maybe I missed it. But, Jason, by all accounts, I'm hearing that he's good to go, and this is mostly precautionary. Am I accurate in what I've been hearing from your end?
Yeah, this happens to J.J. Nelson. I'd say probably 6 weeks out of the year. He usually is limited in practice because of hamstrings. He's always got kind of a tightened up hamstring. It's just because he's ridiculously fast, and these fast guys always end up with these soft tissue issues. But yeah, it's just precautionary.
Mm-hmm. Also in Arizona, wide receiver John Brown was not seen at practice during Thursday, dealing with a quad injury. He was also listed as a limited participant through other sources, so just putting that out there. But as we already said, John Brown, I mean, if you're in deeper leagues, I mean, obviously upside, but I would not be surprised if he plays less than half the games this season. If he comes back, he'll probably just get hurt again. Most likely droppable. We talked about this with great disappointment last show, and I think was it no, it's just on Tuesday. So yeah, just putting that out there. Anything you want to add, Jason? Your team gone?
No, no, I don't want to talk about it.
I've dropped him in a couple leagues I was in.
I tried to drop him to pick up J.J. Nelson in our industry league, but that didn't end up happening, so that was sad. We were doing too well in that league, so we didn't have enough waiver priority. Let's move on to New England, where wide receiver Danny Amendola has returned to practice. He was practicing on Thursday, of course, coming back from a concussion that he suffered in Week 1, so potentially a nice option there. In Tennessee, wide receiver Corey Davis has already been ruled out for Sunday's game against the Seahawks, dealing with a hamstring injury. So, possibly an uptick for Rashard Matthews. And, I'm just going to go ahead and say, well, yes, and Eric Decker, but we expected that already. But I'm not starting either of these guys against the Seahawks, who's a very good pass defense. So, just saying, this is going to be probably a very run-heavy game. And also in Cincinnati, wide receiver John Ross was held out of practice on Thursday, dealing with a knee injury. Again, rookie that always seems to be a little bit banged up. So those are the risks you take. Let's move on to the tight end position, where New England wide receiver Rob Gronkowski was spotted in practice on Thursday, dealing with the groin injury. Of course, the initial prognosis, as we talked about on Tuesday, was that this could be week to week. And then he came out and said, nah, it's actually day to day. So things are trending in the right direction. Looks like he will probably be able to play this week. Have you guys been hearing?
How was he spotted with a groin injury? Who was looking at this man?
I mean, he was spotted practicing. He's listed with a groin injury.
He was spotted. Okay, I thought it was spotted with a groin injury. I was like, how? What are you looking at?
No, CJ. People are not staring at his groin.
You worry me.
Eyes up here, big guy.
You worry me.
If someone has a knee injury, they're not dissecting his knee. So anyway,
well, you could see that he was either walking with a limp or something like, oh, he got a knee injury. But you go like, oh, this guy Gronk was spotted with a groin injury.
He's
like,
walking a little funny. Oh,
phrasing guy. I need you to keep your eyes on.
Wow. Anyway, moving on. Family show. Washington Redskins tight end Jordan Reed was limited in practice on Thursday, dealing with chest and toe injuries. I would just kind of wish he would just sit out, because it's looking like he's going to try and play this weekend, and he's going to be banged up, and that will obviously make him limited and make Vernon Davis not a streamable option, so it's just a bad situation all around. But I guess it's helpful to the offense because he's going to draw coverage. If he this has been an old rule. If Jordan Reed starts, he plays for you. I can safely say I'm not doing that this week. Not a terrible matchup, but he's too banged up for my liking right now.
Yeah. No.
Yep.
All right. Cincinnati tight end Tyler Eifert did not practice for the second straight day on Thursday, so he's dealing with multiple injuries as well. I actually just as we were starting to record this saw something saying that he has not been officially listed as, but people are starting to suspect that he's most likely going to be listed as doubtful for this weekend's game. So possibly want to look for other options. And it's a bad matchup in Green Bay. Actually, we're going to talk about that a little bit later on. Actually, no, we're not, because that's right. I replaced him, didn't I? Oh, no, I didn't. Yay. Okay, spoiler alert.
I don't even know.
I don't know.
I don't know what's happening right now.
He has been unproductive thus far, and dealing with injuries. Obviously, that's not going to help things. And last bit of tight end news. New York Giants tight end Evan Ingram has been limited in practice, of course, coming back from a concussion. So, not great. His status is a little bit up in the air as of now for week number 3. So,
Makes me sad.
All right. We did it. So much news, and this is all just the fantasy relevant players. We could go on and on for so many other players. We could talk offensive linemen if you guys want to. Just saying.
No,
but
not do that.
I think that our listeners would prefer. I mean, maybe that's a Patreon topic. I don't know, but I think our listeners would prefer that we move into our topic of the day. Why everyone is here. Our Week 3 preview. These are our starts and sits for week number 3. Our big recommendations outside of the big elite names that you're starting no matter what. And of course, we're going to start at the quarterback position. No bye weeks this week. And I'm going to start with these stupid early. Oh, no, I'm not. I changed my guy. I'm going to start with Jay Cutler. I was thinking Ravens, Jags, but that's later on. Jay Cutler, obviously Miami at New York Jets. Jets are, as we mentioned, a team that I'm just simply streaming against as often as I can. This is a great matchup for the Miami Dolphins, and there's no reason not to exploit it. The Jets are giving up the 4th most fantasy points to the quarterback position, and Jay Cutler is a guy who's probably available on most of your waiver wires as a streaming option. If he is there, I mean, I would go, if you don't like the matchup of your quarterback, if you are playing a tough pass D, maybe take a flyer on Jay Cutler. He looked pretty darn good last week against the Chargers, which have a pretty decent pass defense. So I like him, even though he's on the road, even though it's a divisional rival. I think this is going to work out pretty well. So go pick up Jay Cutler. I don't know why I'm stuttering. CJ, your guy.
You can do it. My guy is Derek Carr. Derek Carr is going to be going against the Redskins, Washington, this week. Sunday night game, I like Derek Carr's matchup. I think he's going to be able to take advantage of those corners. They're a little injury when it comes to their linebacker core, so I think underneath routes are going to be really good that he can be able to take advantage of. I just like the matchup. So Derek Carr, if you got him, I have him. I'm starting him. You should too.
I was going to put him as my start, but then I just could not look away from the Jay Cutler against the Jets matchup.
Oh, yeah. I feel you, bro.
So I like it.
All right. Mine's a little out there. I know, and people are going to say, what? But you know what? Deshaun Watson. The reason is because... the reason is... shut your mouth. The reason is because he's going up against New England. Mm-hmm. New England has not defensively looked very good recently. Surprisingly, they've been playing rather badly on defense. And Deshaun Watson is trending in the other direction. He's getting better every week. So... that's it's a little bit, like I said, it's a little bit out there, but if you have him in your league, this might be a good time to go ahead and start him.
And the sad thing is, yes, CJ?
I'm about to say, have that bad buzzer ready for next week because I don't think this is a good pick.
I will have the sad music queued up and ready to go for a possible apology from Jason, but honestly, I cannot really fault him too much because this is kind of sneaky stats if you look at it. For fantasy points against, I mean, a lot of this is obviously week 1 with Alex Smith, but the Patriots have given up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks through this point of the season. So, there's legs there, but the offense in Houston, especially on the road in New England, it's scary to me. I thought about this as kind of like a sneaky option, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So I'm glad Jason did. So if we're wrong, it'll be his fault.
I'm the crazy one. It's fine.
You are the crazy one. That's true. Let's move on to the running back position, where I am starting a guy who some of you may be a little bit surprised on. But I am starting Amir Abdullah. Amir Abdullah has a great game hosting in Detroit against the Atlanta Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons are giving up a ton of points to the running back position. I know Amir Abdullah, he is not the 26th, the 27th, the 28th, but the 29th running back on the season. Not exactly something that would excite you, but again, the Falcons are giving up the 2nd most points to fantasy running backs. Also, they're giving up a lot of points to pass-catching running backs, which obviously theoretic, that's his bread and butter, but Amir Abdullah does it all. I think that he is going to be very well if they're playing from behind because he can be used there. Obviously, if they have a lead, they're going to be running a lot anyway. I just think Amir Abdullah is primed for having a bit of a breakout this week, and he's a guy that most of you are probably thinking about maybe sitting on your bench or flexing. I would plug him in with confidence. Start Amir Abdullah.
You know what, Griffin? I second that. I think that's really good because he got a lot of runs called back because of holding, but I think those numbers. If he didn't get those calls called back, you would have numbers to be able to stand on that. And I like it.
Thank you.
Mine's is a little ballsy, you know what I mean? Because this guy hasn't really been doing nothing.
This one is dangerous to me.
But you know what? I'm gonna this one I'm gonna do. I'm gonna stand on this edge, right there, right? I'm gonna tippy toes right at the edge. I'm saying start Joe Mixon because I guarantee He's going to get you 15 fantasy points this week. 15 or more.
Wow.
Joe Mixon this week going against the Green Bay Packers, who are giving up some good points to the running backs, man. So I'm telling you, I've got a feeling. They just changed their offensive coordinator that was hot garbage, and they switched it over. I'm seeing this kid's going to get involved. He's going to get some scores. Joe Mixon starting this week.
Packers are giving up the 16th most points to the running back position, so they are very much middle of the pack. So I mean, it's possible, but that's what scares me. I mean, new offensive coordinator coming in, and obviously a big timeshare committee. So I mean, ballsy, CJ. So we'll preach some caution around this one, but I mean, possible, definitely possible. Jason, your guy.
Jay Ajayi.
I came close to doing this guy.
Well, New York Jets. I mean, it's like we were talking about. This team, the Jets, not a good team, and they're not playing well, and it's been showing. And actually, they are the absolute worst team. They're 32nd against the run. So I think Jay Ajayi is going to have one of those crazy 200-yard games that he likes to do every now and then.
Yep. Ooh, I would love it.
Worst. I was thinking about doing Jay Ajayi, but I decided not to because I figured he was a little bit too big of a name. So I looked somewhere else. But yeah, they're giving up. They said the worst run defense in the league right now. They're giving up the fourth most points to fantasy running backs. So yeah, it's a great matchup. There's no denying that. With that, let's move on to the wide receiver position, where I mean I'm double stacking here. I went Jay Cutler. I got to go. Who to me is his favorite target, definitely his deep threat, his red zone weapon, Devontae Parker. Now Devontae Parker, I know he was a little disappointing last week. Had many opportunities to score a touchdown, didn't quite happen, but I think they rectify that on the road. It's not New York, in New Jersey, in MetLife Stadium, where they'll be playing the Jets, and they're going up against just a bad defense all around. It's a top 10 matchup. They're giving up about 35.5 fantasy points to the wide receiver position, and I think that Devontae Parker will be getting the massive share of that. I think that he's primed for a slight breakout game this week. I'm firing up Devontae Parker with confidence. In fact, I'm plugging him into my wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 spot, depending on my league. I'm not even flexing him. That's how sure I am about this start.
I like it. Mine is Mr. Doug Baldwin, my dude. He's going against the Titans this week. Man, the Titans have been giving up some nice coins when it comes to those wide receiving position, man. I see this offense, which has been kind of stale and kind of struggling a little bit. But I think they can be able to get back on the right track against the Titans, man. So I'm saying start you some Doug Baldwin this week.
Titans are giving up the 5th most points to fantasy wide receivers, so I definitely like that. Mm-hmm. Jason, your guy.
All right. Now we move to the team that's giving up the 4th most points to wide receivers, and that would be New England. And they're going up against a young man named DeAndre Hopkins, who has been all of a sudden just found again. He's been found again. It's like he was born again into this offense, and I like to see it. So, and I think he's going to continue that trend. Hallelujah, DeAndre Hopkins. I think he's going to continue that trend. He's going to have a really nice game. I know I gave you Deshaun Watson as my starter quarterback. I got to give you his favorite weapon, DeAndre Hopkins.
Double stack him there as well. I like it. DeAndre Hopkins does scare me because they've got good man-to-man corners there in New England, but I think he can win some contested catches, and he's going to get enough volume that he should be able to make a decent day out of it. So, yeah, I could see that. And let's move on to the tight ends, where I am starting, and this could be a little bit bold because obviously starting quarterback's not there, Andrew Luck. I'm starting, though, Jack Doyle. Cleveland is at Indianapolis. Jacoby Brissett, I mean, look, he looked decent. He was better than Scott Tolzien, and the main beneficiary, it seemed, through that passing game was Jack Doyle. The Browns are giving up the 2nd most points to the fantasy tight ends, so, I mean, this is a good matchup at home against the so-so, really, to the bad side defense. It gives up a lot of points to the tight end. I think that Jack Doyle is probably the only option I'm really starting this week in Indianapolis. Probably Frank Gore as well, but, the only pass catcher that I'd be willing to start is Jack Doyle, and I'm starting him with confidence. Jack Doyle. Drop the mic. CJ, your guy.
Drop it. I'm going to pick it back up, though, because man, finally it's time for him to shine. We finally got that Antonio Gates foolishness out the way. I mean, congratulations to you, but let's put the talent in there. Hunter Henry. And now it's just time to shine. Watch his numbers, production, everything just rise up and just starts. Just ding, ding, ding. I can hear the bells and everything just going off. Hunter Henry is my star for this week. I see this dude getting against the Chiefs. I'm gonna say a touchdown and a $120. That's what my man gonna give me this week.
That's scary to me because they're going up against a good pass rush, and they're going to probably use him as a blocker if it starts getting out of hand. So definite ceiling. It could happen. It's scary because we've seen two different Hunter Henrys between week 1 and week 2. So you're being ballsier than I am is basically what it comes down to. Jason, your guy.
I just literally changed my guy right this second, and the reason I changed it is because I was flip-flopping. I was flip-flopping back and forth between the two guys, and I decided to go with the more established guy. Zach Ertz of the Philadelphia Eagles versus the New York Giants. New York Giants are hot garbage right now, and specifically against the tight ends. 7th most fantasy points given up to the tight end right now. So I think Zach Ertz is going to have the opportunity to feast in this game. They're playing at home. That's also good. Carson Wentz is looking better and better every single week. So I'm going with Zach Ertz.
I like it.
It's sneaky pick. Who did you have in there in the first place? I don't remember.
I had David Njoku. I like him too. He's coming on a little bit, but the matchup is not as good as Zach Ertz versus the Giants.
Yeah,
I will agree with that. It's a much better matchup for Zach Ertz. Which the fact that we have to even say Zach Ertz as an option, like he's not one of those plug and play guys, is kind of surprising to me because we are all very high on him.
Oh,
but, a lot of people.
It's not December yet.
I'm very high.
In December, you just plug and play.
That's what
I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. Though, look at the numbers he's putting up now versus you normally hearing them saying, "Okay, you can go ahead and start him and be this guy for you later on in the year." This dude is doing it right now, which I knew what would happen. This dude has yet to play with a quarterback for consecutive years, and this is his first season to be able to do it. This is good.
It's all true.
And maybe that's what he needed because maybe that's why at the end of the season he's finally gets a rapport with his quarterback. He's had a full season with Wentz. Maybe you're right.
There it is.
It's possible. I like it. I mean, he's definitely Mr. December, but he's definitely trying to blow up that stereotype and that title. So we'll see. Let's move on to our sits of the week. How are we doing on time? Not very good, so we'll go a little bit quicker on this one. I am sitting Blake Bortles. This is going to be a very common theme. I'm sitting a bunch of people from this game. I think it's going to be low scoring. Blake Bortles has looked awful. There's been talks of possibly sitting him, and they're on the road, 7-hour flight from Baltimore. I think it's 8.5-hour flight from Jacksonville to New England. Early game in London. The clocks are going to be off. I know Jacksonville kind of has a home field advantage here. They are the home team, but they have a lot of experience in the stadium. But, I mean, that being said, I just think it's going to be bad. The Ravens defense is legit. I'm not just saying that as a Ravens fan. They are good in all the phases. And I think that they're going to be a huge problem for Blake Bortles, which has looked like hot garbage this season. So I am not starting him this week. If you were in a deeper league, a streaming option, or you've been living under a rock, you might have been thinking about starting him. But I'm going to go and say, don't do it. He's played 2 tough defenses, and this one is going to be just as tough. And he's been bad those 2 weeks. I don't see him turning it around in week 3. So don't play him. CJ, your guy.
I'm with it, man. My guy's Jameis Winston. Yes, he had a good performance last week. Got a touchdown, a couple hundred yards. But they're going against the Vikings, man. Vikings are very stingy, the quarterbacks, man. I don't like the matchup. Outside of this, maybe, but this week, no, I'm not feeling it, man. So I'm saying sit Jameis Winston with this week.
Jason?
Yep. I agree with that. Mine, Drew Brees. Got to sit Drew Brees because he's not at home. We already know he doesn't play well when he's not there. And he's playing Carolina, who actually have been very stingy against the pass this season so far. So. I think that's going to be a boring game, to be honest with you. I think it'll be a very low-scoring game, not a lot of offense going on there. But, I definitely would sit down Drew Brees for this week.
Yeah, on the road, divisional, I don't like it. All right, let's move on to the running back position where I am sitting another player from the London game, early game, and that is the number 8 running back in fantasy right now, and that's with the adjustment of Todd Gurley jumping obviously up ahead of him after this past week. But I am sitting Leonard Fournette. Guys, Leonard Fournette, he has been good. I love the upside. I love him season long, but this is a bad matchup. The Ravens, again, a top 10 defense against the run on the road where they're going to have struggles passing the ball. They're going to be trying to run, and I think he's just going to find himself running to a wall of bodies. I don't see him being very productive this week. I just think that it's a bad play. So I would not be starting Leonard Fournette. It's not going to be all you hope it would be.
Yeah, man. Look, I'm gonna follow that up with a guy that I just thought and knew could finish top 5 running backs and be that guy, but he has yet to do that. And it's just a bad situation. My man is the front runner for the Todd Gurley Award. Talking about Jordan Howard, man. We just talked about him earlier dealing with shoulder injuries. This is no good. You don't want to hear that about your running back. Man, look, just don't even look over there. Sit my man Jordan Howard down because this is a mess over there in Chicago. It's a mess.
Yep.
Yep. Dalvin Cook, he's got a tough matchup against the best run defense in the league right now. They've given up the fewest points to running backs in Tampa Bay. And Dalvin Cook's coming off kind of a disappointing week. And I think this is going to be a bad situation for him. So I would just go ahead and sit him down.
All right, moving on to the wide receiver position. I am sitting yet another player from the London. Basically, don't play players in the London game. That's what I'm getting to. I'm sitting the number 10 fantasy wide receiver so far through 2 weeks, and that is Jeremy Maclin. Guys, Joe Flacco, I mean, we talk about all these players, these quarterbacks especially with home road splits. Joe Flacco is right up there with the best of them, and on the road in London with a time difference, a long flight against a defense that is the 4th best as right now, fourth worst matchup. They are very, very tough against wide receivers. They have very good corners. It's just a bad situation. I think there's going to be, like I said, a run-heavy game. I am not starting Jeremy Maclin with any type of confidence. In fact, if I have better options, I am sitting him, which is why he is my sit of the week. CJ, your guy.
My guy is a double tundra because one, it's because I hate that team, and then one, because I want Jason's team to win. So I'm going to say sit down Des Bryant because he's going up against my man Patrick Peterson. That's Mr. Clink Clink, lock him down. And you saw how bad those Cowboys played against a good defense in the Broncos, and they're going against another good defense with these Cardinals. I don't like the matchup. I think my man Prescott is going to get pressured. He's going to start turning the ball over. So that's what I'm saying. Sit Des Bryant this week.
I'm glad there was some analytics behind that, other than the fact that you're just like, I'm an Eagles fan and I don't like this Cowboys player.
No, but it's always going to be some analytics behind it, even though my hatred is true. Like, look, I got to be real. You know me, man.
It's true. It just started that way. I was like, oh, geez, here we go. All right, Jason, your guy.
Oh, yeah. Des Bryant's going to be wearing a Patrick Peterson coat again this week. It's going to be great.
Yep.
My sit of the week is Michael Thomas. I hate to do it. But you know what? I got to do it because, again, away from home, Drew Brees is not good away from home. And when the quarterback's not good, your receiver's not going to be good. And they're going up against the number 1 defense against wide receivers this year so far, giving up the fewest points to the wide receiver position. So Michael Thomas, probably want to sit him down. He also had kind of an off game last game. He was kind of disappeared and became kind of a non-factor for a while. So all that in mind, sit down Michael Thomas for a week.
I see them as the second worst, but either way, bad matchup. So yeah, I agree.
Either way,
it's a bad situation. With that, let's move on to the tight end position. Now, my sit of the week is Tyler Eifert. Now, there's a lot of rumors, as we mentioned, that he might be downgraded to doubtful, but as of right now, he is expected to play. And if he does, it's a bad situation because he's really banged up. He's on the road. He's in Green Bay, which Green Bay's defense may not be great at a lot of things, but the one thing they are very good at is defending against the tight end. They are actually the second best defense, second worst matchup in the league against tight ends as of right now through 2 weeks. They've got a lot of high-flying, fast safeties that can close in on the ball very quickly. So it's just a bad situation. I would not start Tyler Eifert with any level of confidence going forward, especially with the level of production that we've seen through Andy Dalton. Of course, as we mentioned, new offensive coordinator coming in. Things could change, but he's banged up. I don't like it. I'm sitting him. I'm giving him a week. Don't do it. CJ, your guy.
This one is bittersweet, man, because this is my baby, man. I've been talking this dude up. You've seen him on the tape. This dude scored a touchdown this past Monday night. He's been getting catches. He's been getting involved.
But you also don't have a problem with it because it's a matchup against you.
Man, it's going against my Eagles, who's been shutting down the tight ends outside of that blip mess up against Travis Kelce. But we've been putting these boys on lock. And right now I'm talking about Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram is going to face the Philadelphia Eagles this Sunday if he plays because he is in concussion protocol. But listen, this is not a great matchup. He's going against Jordan Hicks. He's going to be going against Malcolm Jenkins. We've been shutting down tight ends, just like I said. This is not a good matchup. I know you've been on the fence with me. You saw it. You're like, you know what? I invested because I've been seeing him get picked up. but I think you should sit him down this week. Hold on.
I agree, and that's what actually makes me laugh about the small sample size that we're basing all these stats off of, which is why we say don't necessarily follow the stats for the first couple weeks, because that one play, that one broken, amazing touchdown of Travis Kelce took you guys from being a top 10 defense against us for tight ends to a bottom 10 defense.
Yeah,
so
see?
it's funny to look at how those stats swing so rapidly this early in the season. But I agree, you guys have been shutting down tight ends. The stats don't tell the full story there. Jason, your guy.
It's a theme with me with these sits for this particular game. Again, I'm going back to the New Orleans-Carolina game, and I got to sit down a guy that we sat down last week as well, Kobe Fleener. Got to sit him down. Going up against Carolina. Carolina has given up the fourth fewest points to the tight end. Again, we're talking about Drew Brees away from the dome. Not a good situation. So Kobe Fleener probably not going to do very well this coming week.
I didn't tell people to sit him last week. You did. But you want to sit the number 3
He was one of our sits last week, I think, wasn't he?
I think he was, but I was telling people to start him in questions.
It's justified, though.
It is. It's completely justified. But again, he's the number 3 tight end in fantasy, so it's ballsy. I like it, but there's lots of good reasons to do so. So yeah, it's good stuff. So yeah, that's gonna do it. Those are our starts and sits for week number 3, and we'll see you guys again on Tuesday when we will be going, of course, over all the studs and duds. Hopefully there'll be a lot less duds this week, but time will tell. Fantasy is hard on the player. And of course, talk about all of our top waiver wire targets for week number 4. Remember, if you guys want more of the show, you want to support us, and you want to get a lot of cool bonus perks along the way, head over to patreon.com/thefantasyfootballfanatics. Of course, please make sure you guys subscribe. I know we say it all the time, but seriously, guys, if you subscribe to the show, the people who really listen, you guys who are here throughout the entire season have an advantage over 99% of fantasy players, because most people, they show up, they draft their team, and a lot of you are freaking out because you're 1-1, 0-2, but a lot of those players who check in for the draft and they check back out, maybe they drafted a good team, but you guys are going to be building throughout the season, and, your teams are going to win through the bye weeks, through the injuries, and that's what gets you to the big dance at the end. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint, so don't lose your minds. Stick with us. We'll help you get through it every Tuesday and Friday, giving you all the information that you need to hopefully bring home some of these titles at the end of the year. That's why we do what we do. And remember, if you want to follow the show, and you want, of course, if you want to get news as it breaks between recordings and all the injury updates as we go into the weekend, at the FF Fanatics on Twitter, or you can follow us individually. I'm at GPalmerFFF. CJ is at CJHickman89. Jason is at Jason Cabrera13. So with that, we're signing off. Any parting thoughts, fellas?
Oathbreakers, I'm coming for you, boy.
Last time you called out a team, it didn't go so well for you.
Yeah. Well, it don't matter. It don't matter. It's a new week. I'm coming for you, Oathbreakers.
Wow. All right. So Listener League trash talk. I love it. All right. We're out of here. Everyone take care. Have a great weekend. Enjoy football. We will see you on Tuesday. Bye.